Hey, what's up people? Welcome to another video on the channel, and this is the anticipated, detailed and comprehensive review of the Cosmicbyte Starforge controller. I've been playing with it for over 2 hours every day for the last 2 weeks. I've tested all the modes, pairing methods, shortcuts and have also done the technical tests of this controller and will cover everything in this video. For games, I've mostly played Far Cry 5, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Need for Speed, Mortal Kombat, COD Warzone and a bit of Fortnite. Most of the time has been spent on Far Cry 5, which is a decent Far Cry game I would say. I actually finished that game in the last 10 days with this controller. Also started Far Cry 6 as it supposedly supports the impulse triggers. Other games were to test specific aspects of this controller like Mortal Kombat to test the D-pad and macro buttons, Tomb Raider and Far Cry 6 for impulse triggers, etc. I also played a bit of Hollow Knight to test out the switch mode and vibration, and Minecraft and Fortnite on Android to test its performance on a mobile phone. First, let's get the technicals out of the way and then I will tell you what I liked and what I did not about this controller. If you are not interested in the numbers and just want to know what using this controller practically felt, you can skip to the timestamp reflected on the screen. Now, this is the joystick test. This claims to have a 1000 Hz polling rate, and as you can see from this test right here, it is quite accurate. The sticks are K-Silver JS20 and show a resolution of 12-bit, which is the highest stick resolution in today's controllers and is also seen in Gamesir TMR sticks. Here, through the stick analyzer, I have tested the linearity, data points, resolution and tremor. The resolution is what matters the most and it is quite decent. Although it is much lower than the Gamesir controllers or some other brand controllers like ZD, you will hardly notice any difference. Comparing it head-on with the Cyclone 2, you can see that Gamesir has higher resolution TMR sticks as they claim, and Gamesir sticks are widely regarded as being some of the best TMR modules in the market. Practically, you will notice almost no difference between the two. However, something like the G7 Pro may feel a bit smoother due to its sticks having more than 50% higher resolution than the Starforge. But again, that controller is already about 2,500 rupees more expensive than this and may even be more expensive when it officially launches in India. I have used this polling tool to test out the polling rate and latency over different connection methods. Over the 2.4 GHz dongle or the wired connection, the latency is quite low and is much better than even some of the more expensive controllers than this. The polling rate also seems to be accurate, that is closer to 1000 Hz. The latency and jitter over the dongle and wired connection mode is quite nice. But Bluetooth connection mode is what I would not recommend using this controller over, at least on PC. It's normal to have only 125 Hz polling rate on Bluetooth and most controllers follow the same when connected through that connection method. This is no different. Over Bluetooth, the latency rises significantly and the maximum latency is just not ideal for any competitive game or action game where you want instant translation of your button press on the screen. This is only suitable if you want to use this controller on a mobile device, as most mobile games are quite casual and don't really require a very low latency. Same goes for Nintendo Switch, as this has this exact 125 Hz polling rate and higher latency when using this in the Switch mode connected through Bluetooth. Well, all that information was just for a few geeks out there, and most people only care about whether it is good practically or not. So, let me tell you. First, the things that I liked about this controller. The placement of the macro buttons is quite nice and I've actually been using them a lot on this controller, which I don't usually do with other controllers with macro buttons. They are just quite easy to reach and press. The bumpers feel quite decent and pressing them anywhere has always worked. The D-pad for me is quite good too. I felt it was quite precise with no wobble. Some people like their D-pad a bit wobbly, but I found its firmness and precision quite accurate in fighting games like Mortal Kombat. The vibration is solid, and since it has got the same type of motor as the Sony DualSense controller, it provided a detailed haptic feedback and was strong when it needed to, and also provided the weaker and more subtle vibrations when the game had it. Felt quite good. I should also mention that the vibration completely changes in the Nintendo Switch mode to emulate the actual Switch controller vibration style, which is more crisp and a bit weaker than the rumble style Xbox vibration. It is a nice touch that the vibration style changes based on the mode. The weight and the overall build quality also never felt cheap or bad. It felt like a controller that justifies its price in this regard properly. The sticks never gave an accuracy error and have always been quite smooth. I've been using the default orange stick on the left and have replaced the right stick with a higher tension black module for more accuracy in FPS games. There's no perceivable latency on this controller due to its actual 1000Hz polling rate, and you won't be missing any of your shots due to the same. Be it wired or wireless, button press and the action on the screen has always been almost instant with no delays. Really like the fact that you can change the joystick so easily depending on your preference. The sticks, which give you an option to change tension within controller like in the Cosmicbyte Eclipse or the FlyDigi Vader 4 Pro, are also good systems, but I would say that they are not as good as replaceable sticks, as if the sticks in those controllers die, you will have to change the entire controller or open the entire thing for a tedious repair. However, in this, you just take out the faulty module and swap it out for a new one in less than 2 minutes. Take that, Maggie. The trigger vibration has been a nice touch also. It's not really supported natively in too many games and is mostly just a gimmick, but you can change the modes of this trigger vibration and set it so that they can vibrate each time you press the trigger, regardless of whether the game supports it or not. Natively, so few games actually support it that it becomes hard to recommend a controller solely for the trigger vibration feature. But it's there for those who want it. All the connection methods work fine, you can directly play wired without the dongle, and all the lights and vibrations work just as good, be it wired or wireless. One thing that you have to remember though, when you are pressing this pairing key to enable Bluetooth pairing, you have to actually press it for a bit longer till the light flashes fast. Light starts to flash almost immediately when you press it, but it flashes slowly, and that is not the proper pairing mode. Also, the first device that comes to your Bluetooth devices list is the Byte Starforge, but you should not pair with this name as that does not work. You have to wait a few more seconds on the Bluetooth screen and then the name Xbox Wireless Controller becomes visible, and that is the one you should pair with to use this controller via Bluetooth. When in Nintendo Switch mode, the name shows up as Pro Controller in the Bluetooth list. Seems a bit of a hassle at first, but not a big deal once you pair it initially, and it will automatically connect the next time with the last paired device based on the mode that you have selected, and you don't have to worry about pairing it again and again. Now, the things that I did not quite like about this controller. Let's start small. The grips. It has this textured grip and a bit of the same dotted texture on the triggers as well, but I personally like the softer rubber grips on the controller. For some reason, this controller always made my palms sweaty. Knees weak, arms are heavy. Whoa, hold on a second, Eminem. I mean, it always makes my palms sweat despite playing with the AC on, which seems to occur less likely for me with a rubber grip controller. Also, you start to get controllers with proper mechanical buttons and triggers in this price range, but this has traditional membrane buttons, and honestly, the faceplate buttons feel almost the same as controllers in the 2000 rupees price segment. I mentioned earlier that the D-pad is precise and has no wobble, but this precision is limited to pressing the main 4 directions. Pressing diagonals on this D-pad is not too easy, and for some games like Street Fighter which require semi-circle presses on D-pad, this D-pad is not ideal. A lot of controllers are giving different shaped D-pads, and few are even giving replaceable D-pad covers to let you choose the desired shape. They should have had that option, and it probably wouldn't have added too much to the cost either. I also mentioned the placement of back buttons being convenient, but they are sometimes too easy to press, especially if you have big fingers, and may also become annoying if you are pressing them accidentally. And there is no button to disable or lock them. The trigger locks do reduce the trigger distance, but it is still quite perceivable and could have been lesser. Now, this one does not have a charging dock either, but that's not too big of a deal breaker. But what might be a bit of a deal breaker is that this has no software support, and all the programming and settings have to be done on the controller itself through button combination. Now, this does not really limit its functionality in any way, but you just always have to have the manual handy or have to memorize all the required button combinations for the settings. Although, most people won't be changing too many settings on this once they set it to their desired ones. Also, this issue can be somewhat overlooked, as you can adjust the dead zones or change controller settings in game options or other available software like the Steam controller input. But still, a software would have been great, as even products that cost less than 2000 rupees are also coming with their own software these days. One more thing that I don't really like is that you can't really turn off this RGB light on this controller. As you can see here, you can reduce the brightness and turn off the side strips, but the buttons always remain lit and there is no setting to turn them off. It's just irksome in dark rooms. It has gyro functionality, but it is not too precise and only works in the Nintendo Switch mode. It's not too major of an issue considering mostly no one even uses gyro on PC and most PC games don't even support it. I did try its gyro in Portal 2 using Steam input after connecting it via Bluetooth in the Nintendo Switch mode, and it wasn't that good, and using standard sticks felt more natural. It works quite well on Android phones, but there's no vibration support when connected to the phone. Some of these joysticks, especially these black ones, seem to be a bit too rigid when trying to press L3 or R3, but I mapped L3 for sprint on the back macro button, and honestly this is so much better, and it's much more convenient and easier to press the central back macro button as L3 than the actual L3. So this is both a pro and a con together for this controller. Well, there are a few more nitpicks, but overall this seems like a decent overall option for the price. The biggest complaint I have about this is the brand which has brought it to India, Cosmicbyte. Their QC is not good and service also leaves a lot of room for improvement. If they manage to get good pieces of this controller with no quality issues from the manufacturer, this can be one of the best options in this price segment. The major competitors for this in India currently are the official Xbox controller, Sony DualSense controller, Power A Xbox controllers, and the most trending in this price segment, the Gamesir Cyclone 2. Some people are even trying to compare Starforge to the Gamesir G7 Pro, but the G7 Pro has much higher resolution sticks, has higher polling rate over Bluetooth, has better feeling buttons, comes with a charging dock, has a very good software support, and overall has a much better quality. But it is also at least 2,500 rupees more expensive when ordered from the Gamesir website, and you may have to pay additional money for customs. So the price difference puts the G7 Pro in a different class altogether, and it won't be wise to compare the Starforge to the G7 Pro. Starforge does offer everything that the G7 Pro does, just a bit less in terms of quality and feel. Buying DualSense for PC only makes sense if you are willing to tinker around in software and settings frequently, and you still won't be able to enjoy all the DualSense features on PC that you would on an actual PlayStation. This is much better than the standard Xbox controllers due to having multiple macros and gyro functionality along with different modes with the turbo functionality. Power A controllers in this price range are a decent option, but it is better to avoid those when the Cyclone 2 exists. So, in this price range, in India currently, out of the officially available controllers on Amazon, I would say your best options are the Starforge and the Cyclone 2. Now, go for the Cyclone 2 if you want mechanical feel buttons, shorter trigger distance, and if you play mostly shooting games with your controller. Go for the Starforge only if you are too adamant on the extra 2 macro buttons and trigger vibration. Although the Cyclone 2 is about 500 rupees more expensive without the dock and about 800 to 1000 rupees more expensive with the dock, it would be a better overall option for most people compared to the Starforge. Again, if you just cannot do without the extra 2 macro buttons and trigger vibrations and your budget is closer to 4500 rupees, go for the Starforge. And if your budget is closer to 5000 rupees and do not care much about the gimmick of trigger vibration and additional 2 macros, go for the Cyclone 2. Links to these controllers mentioned in the video are in the description, you can check that out. Well, this was pretty much it for the full comprehensive review of this Cosmicbyte Starforge controller. If you still have any queries, let me know in the comments below, and if you want a specific product to be tested or reviewed, do mention in the comments as well. Leave a like if this video helped you, or dislike if you didn't like it, and share it with anyone who wants to know about this controller. For now, stay safe and thanks for watching.